Hello, 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 dearest ones. It's Georgianne Thomas as I continue my virtual biography. Some have memoirs. I just putting all mine on video. It's easier for me. I hope you've been keeping up with me. I have some people who've been keeping up with me. Not bad, not bad. Not a lot, but it's okay because this is my book to myself. This is my book to the people who say you ought to do a book. Well, this is the book. Can I call it an ebook maybe? Yes, let's call this ebook. So now listen to me. You have to go all the way back to part one. I stopped putting the numbers up because Georgianne forgot the numbers. Just go back to Pulaski, go back to Gary, go back to Chicago, go back to Canada. We're now gone over to Spelman. I think we've gone through Spelman. And then every now and then I give you a musical treat. So, like you, listen, I have this keyboard. Let me tell you what I learned to do. I actually learned to look at the note and play the note. I found where C was on here on the note because it said look at the note, and it says to goes the flashing speedboat. I won't read you. I won't bore you with all of it, but it's called speedboat, and it's just for the right hand. Oh my God, I actually could look at the note and put my hand. You just don't know. Anyway, where did I leave off? I think we were at Spelman, but I never bring my glasses in here, and I promised you all I was going to show you some pictures. Well, when we get to the book, that's what's going to happen. That'll be the book. All right, so I think I was letting you know that when I was in France, so yes, we're in the University of Angers, and my roommate has decided she would not be Catholic anymore. She was a Catholic nun, not Catholic anymore, but she wouldn't be a nun anymore. And everybody was looking at me because I was the roommate. I'm like, oh. Let's go to the next thing. And I sang over there, and people were just surprised that I sang. And that was my first foray into something professional. But when I got back to the United States, it didn't transcend. It didn't follow me. I got these wonderful entrees, but I didn't know what a Young and Rubicam was. And I asked people in Atlanta, nobody knew what Young and Rubicam was. So I didn't bother to follow up. It's just so you can see how many opportunities that I missed. So we missed. Let's go back to bandstand. And then we won't add the links. They just didn't think I wasn't worthy. So, but I saw that at age 12. I wanted to be a link. I'm grateful to be a Delta. They thought I was worthy. Miss Days over at Quillian asked me about had I thought about being in a sorority. And I had thought about it at Spelman, but when I was at Spelman College during the 60s, it was our whole school for Christ. They weren't having any sororities over there. So, but I'm glad somebody thought well enough of me to think that I deserve to be somewhere with the group of women that I dearly, dearly, dearly love. And with the latest group we just got in, Supreme Court, Lord have mercy. I really am like, I need to have some elephant on me somewhere today. I got on the red though. So when I got back from being, so I've been out the country now 3 times. So I was out the country at 21 in Canada, Université Laval, at 22 in Paris, or my little Sorbonne week. Took some kind of class over there. I wanted to make sure I got some Sorbonne in regardless. And then the next year, I was at the University of Angers in France. Did I tell you? I think I told you yesterday. I got to lean back. I still got this pain going on. It was the best experience. Notre Dame had a wonderful program. It was the NDEA. And I wish I remembered the guy's name. Oh, Lord. But anyway, it was just a wonderful experience. We went all over the country from top to bottom, left to right, everywhere. And and of course we had to speak French all the time. So I'm back in the United States, and I'm teaching still at my 4 schools: East Point, Quillian, Avery, and Beavers. And I'm living at 251 Anderson Avenue when I gave you all of that. All right, so it's time to move to Lyndhurst. And we moved to Lyndhurst Drive. It was a brick house, and my mother's house was built, but it wasn't brick. It was, you know, up north they have a lot of shingle houses. So, but this was a brick house, and so I'm in Fulton County Schools, teaching school. Well, Lord, anybody know, is there Ralph Long Sr.? That's who I knew well. Ralph Long, Mr. Long. He had the privilege of being assigned a school, a new school, and it was called a middle school. Never heard of it before. And it was Cohen Middle School. And so they asked Mr. Long to be the principal. And Mr. Long, who was an Omega Psi Phi, so was Mr. Jesse Hill. I used to be in the Qettes at one time. Well, you can't be in a Qette if you're not married to a Q. So I had to get out of the Qettes. Awesome group of women. We did a lot of good things for good people. It wasn't just we the wives of somebody. We actually did some work and did some community work. But I digress. Anyway, so I'm in Fulton County Schools. Ask me, and I can't tell you, where the Ralph Long, Carolyn Longbanks used to love me telling this story because that was her father. And then April Banks Wyatt, daughter, knows this story. And I think Ralph Long, he about the 4th, 5th, the 6th now. I know there's a whole lot of Ralph Longs now. Anyway, Mr. Long had the privilege of selecting all the people he wanted to be. The Dancies were there. They weren't the Dancies at the time. She was a Mickleberry. Wasn't she a Mickleberry? Dorothea? I don't know, but he selected all the people. Leapart, Mr. Leapart. We had a fabulous group of people, but he selected all the people he wanted to come to this new school that taught middle grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and he wanted a French teacher. How did I go from Fulton County Schools to Atlanta Public Schools? I never remember filling out an application. That was Mr. Long. Mr. Long had that kind of power. I think maybe I filled out something. I'm not sure, but I said I didn't. I don't have anybody to ask. Mr. Long said, so I think he went to my husband first. Don't you love old Atlanta? Old Atlanta people would understand everything I'm saying. New Atlanta would be like, no, girl, they used to pick up the phone and just pick up the phone. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. That's what, let me back up. We didn't have any dogs and water and ratting going on. When we marched, you didn't see any dogs jumping on us. You didn't see any water hoses. Because Mr. Hill and Mr. Felker Ward and Mr. Russell, and name all of them. They were in the room where it happened. What's that from Hamilton? You got to be in the room where it happens. They made it happen. So we're not having all that. Y'all messing with our money. We ain't doing all that. Stop it. We're going to march peacefully, but that's going to be the end of that. We're not doing any of that that's going on over in other places. I'm so glad. I'm really happy that in Atlanta we talk about things. We make things happen behind closed doors. All our mayors have done that. All of our mayors, every one of them from Maynard forward. We know how to make things happen behind closed doors, you see. So where was I? I forgot where I was. But anyway, okay. So I'm to Mr. Long. Mr. Long was that kind of person. It was the best school. Oh my God. I was so glad to be over there. Well, Martha Barnes and Gwen Ashmore and I don't know. And like I did say Dorothea, she wasn't Dorothea Dancy. He was Will Dancy, of course, but she was Dorothea something else. Anyway, I love the coaches. It was just an awesome, awesome. Lee Park, well, I know it said Lee Park. What's her name? Somebody else's husband was a coach. And Leela Grant. Was Leela there with me or was her husband there? I don't know. It was the best school. Cohen Middle School was just awesome. And guess what? I think we all got pregnant at the same time because I got pregnant. Back then, you didn't, like they showing everything. You could have a bump. You had to go home. 2 months, maybe 3 months, and you were home for the rest of the time. Baby didn't have anything to do but enjoy being home because you were home. So I had my baby, Evelyn. Gwen Ashmore had her baby, Wandalyn. And Martha Barnes had her baby, Robalyn. And then James Peake had a baby, but his wife was a librarian. Jamelin. And then it's one more child. Anyway, we had our children. We had all girls. Well, I think they had some other children, but I had just Evelyn. So I went back to teach, and then my Evelyn's father got a job up in Maryland, Olney, right outside of Silver Springs, right outside of Washington D.C. So I remember Miller Johnson, Charlotte Mass Johnson's husband. Remember Charlotte back in the first episode? I love Charlotte Mass. Anyway, Charlotte Mass Johnson's husband, Miller, sold our house. We didn't, and if I had listened to him, we didn't. We sold the house. He said, y'all ought to rent it. And then when you come back, you have a house. Well, when we came back, we had to come to Adams Drive to live because we didn't have a house anymore. We sold the house. Well, let's go to Washington, D.C. People, that was an experience. Olney is in Montgomery County in the 60s. I didn't know where I was going. My husband got a job up there, so that's where I was going. Packed up our little baby, and that's where we're going. We knew it was Washington, D.C., so that was exciting. We went up there, must have been while it was warm, because I'm going to tell you a story. We went up there in the spring, maybe. Beautiful. And he worked somewhere that I always tell people to this day, I don't know where, he went to work and he came home. I knew the place was across the street, but that's about all that I knew, and that's all I ever knew. He worked across the street. I don't know what he did over there, some kind of programming. But they said it was the Navy, something was across the street. So anyway, it was some kind of job because everybody had to be fingerprinted, and I don't know, the baby's footprints had to be taken, and he had 2 brothers in the service, each one in a different service, and they contacted their, I guess their higher ups, and then the neighbors everywhere. I don't know what Alvin did. But anyway, let me tell you what I did. I was home every day with the little girl. Not long, but I was home. It was fine with him. So people would come to the door, and I would go to the door, and they would say, may I speak to the lady of the house? The first time I heard that, I was like, I'm the lady of the house. And they go. It didn't dawn on me, maybe, It didn't click where I was, because I didn't know where I was. I knew I was on some street, Georgia Avenue, 40,000 something, 45,000 something, Georgia Avenue. But I know that road, if you stayed on it, would take you to D.C., to the other Georgia Avenue. But it stayed Georgia Avenue. So I was like, I never understood why people asked, could they speak to the lady of the house? Every time I went to the door. I was like, what is this? I found out later. And I don't think there were any more black people. I found that amazing because we're in the 60s, right? Yes. Maybe it's 69. We had the baby, I go back to work. Maybe it's 70. Maybe. But back then we had something called, you all called it you wouldn't ever say this word now. But I'm going to go ahead and remind you, it used to be called grease. It was a hair solution that you bought in a jar. If you bought in a can, if you bought hair rep. See, it's not anybody watching this that knows anything about hair rep. HAIRREP, little can. The other thing, Crown Royal, and some little blue something. It was blue. I can't think of bird something. It was always blue, but that was the best kind. And you would oil your scalp. So go back to when I was in Naperville, and I decided I would press my hair. So they smelled all that. They smelled the burning hair, and they smelled the grease I had in my hair that was melting as I was pressing my hair. Yes, they did. Let's come on back up to 1970. All right, so I could never find anything. You had to go all the way into D.C. I'm like, what? Where are we? So we met some wonderful people who thought we were just unique. They thought we were the most unique people they had ever met. I used to have something called Unique Negroes, because you know we used to be called Negroes. So I used to go ahead and tell myself, say I was a unique Negro, because first they had never, nobody from the South, I guess, they had met, and then where we lived was just unheard of. And I guess, I don't know. And what he did maybe was unheard of. I don't know. I know what I did. I went and got a job, DC Public Schools. And once again, I was an itinerant French teacher. So can you imagine, when did the mini skirts come out? Many. Can you imagine, I was about this big after I had my baby still on. I got down to something decent. I was decent size, put it like that. I was black folk size. It looked good though. So, who teaches in a mini dress? But when you 20, what was I, 28, 29? Hey, that's why I don't say anything. You know, all y'all that are now my age, that look at the young ladies who come to sorority meetings and different places in the short dresses and the whatever, and shake your head. I just shake my head. I shake my head too, because I remember how I used to look. And when you look like that, you just look like that. So I had long legs. We wore high heels. Girl, I can't get a foot in a high heel. We wore high heels, long legs, great bodies. Who else would wear a mini dress? So I remember wearing mini dresses, couldn't bend over to teach. Shameful. Just absolutely shameful. But everybody had them on, and I was young, so I had them on too. It was a fun time. I went from school to school to school to school. I can't tell you a name of one school. I have tried to find, where's my stuff? Oh, you know, all my stuff is in, it's lost somewhere up in Mayfield, Illinois, at the storage place that somebody bought all my stuff, threw it away. I don't know. It hurts my heart sometimes when I think about that. I'm gonna get to that story. That story's gonna come. It's not a good story, but it's all right. It's my story. It will go in my book, so this is my virtual book. So by this time, I'm in D.C., and I found a group of people. So my husband and I found other couples, up and coming, young. One had an airplane. He wanted us to go to Baltimore. No, we wanted to go to Baltimore and see what Baltimore was like. He was like, well, let's just fly. I said, no, I don't know you like that. You got an airplane, have at it. Well, I got my daughter in it. You know, I'm not getting ready to take my husband and my daughter. We're not getting ready to get on. What? I look back on that. You know, that was a serious brother in the 70s. Oh my God. We're just amazing people, we are. Because if you remember in Black Wall Street out there in Tulsa, they had their own airport, bus line, our own stuff. The more things change, the more we need to go back. Let me put a pin in that. Do you remember the Black airline? the brothers in Atlanta started a black airline. What was the name of it? I got the book in there. I need to do this in another part of the house where all the stuff is. Air Atlanta, a black-owned airline. It would still be Air Atlanta if some things, all they need was a little help and some advisement, I think. Air Atlanta, black-owned. That takes a lot, but this brother had an airplane. So anyway, we go to Baltimore, and we drive over. I'm thinking Baltimore is right around the corner from Olney, but it wasn't, because I learned about Silver Springs, went up to Silver Springs and different places. So, you know, it was a good experience teaching up there. But so how did I leave? Why didn't he retire from there? I woke up one day and looked out the window, and there was snow. I said, you have brought me somewhere where it snows? And it gets cold like this? Oh, baby, no ma'am, no sir, no. I left Gary, Indiana. I went to Atlanta, Georgia to school. And it's snowing like this? This is not for Georgian. Also, Avalon got real sick with a cold. Well, let's go back a minute. I met some people because this was my second foray to sing. Let me put a pin in that before I left from up there. I found a group of people, and we're a group. It was another woman and 3 men. Oh, they could sing. We were trying to be Fifth Dimensions too. And somebody named Roberta Flack had just started singing also. And she had made it. And she was at this place called Mr. Henry's. And so we wanted to sing at Mr. Henry's. Maybe somebody would discover us. And another group called, they had just started, Holland and somebody had just started taking on people. And we just trying to get somebody to recognize us. Oh, we could sing. We were good though. We looked good, everything, but it didn't get anywhere. In the middle of that, we went to record. I'm not feeling well. Let me just try to see what's going on here. I went to record with somebody. And we made up a song together. And that song is Today, Man Without Hate. And since then, I heard he had passed away. And the song, I just got it out to record it. That was in the 70s. Isn't that something? Anyway, I'm going to have to make this shorter. My birthday is Wednesday. Today is Sunday, 81, going on 71. Something just came over me, so I'm trying to get these stories out. Okay. All right, so I'm in D.C., and I come back to Atlanta. And I go and live with his mother and bring my little baby. We come back to Atlanta. I'm like, you can stay up there if you want to. I'm going back to Atlanta, and I'll be over at your mama's house. And that's what I did. I did that. I did. And the beat goes on. We moved. We finally got a house, the one you all know where we lived. And things. And then I guess Alan was 2 or 3 when we got the divorce. And so that's a whole nother story. And my energy is something that's happening, so I don't know what's happening. So I'm going to go. I just want you all to know I love you. We're going to get these stories out as best I can, as fast as I can. This is my book, but it's virtual. I hope you keep up with the good things. I made me a little note. Let me see. Do I have the energy to see what I wrote? I'm gonna have to do some. I talked about moving to Lyndhurst. I talked about singing in France. Yes. And the other I can't read. Look what I wrote. Pitiful. You pitiful Georgianne. I lived in the same. Oh, let me tell you about living on Lyndhurst. I talked to a gentleman today at the Publix or the Kroger. He asked me, was it true? Do you know when we moved on Lyndhurst, they had 2 buses. You know how the 66, I used to ride it, not the 66, the 72. The 72 comes up and down Cascade. 2 buses. One bus brought the maids in, and one bus took the maids out. So the bus, maybe it was one bus, came in the morning, dropped all the maids off on Lyndhurst, and Adams Drive, and Linway, and Cascade, and all over in here, because this was all white. When you know my piece, Who Lived Here and Where Did They Go? We can look at it from the other side. This was all white. Southwest, the SWATs, all those names, all those streets I named, all white. And when we moved in, of course, you know what happened. Because white people didn't want to live next door to us or live anywhere near us. I remember all of that about this neighborhood. I remember telling this guy up at this so-called downtown Cascade, it was all white. Grocery store was up there. Of course, they had everything, you know. But as soon as we moved in, people started moving, business started closing down. Isn't that just ridiculous? Just ridiculous. What did they think we were going to do? Were we going to eat them? When are they going to ever wake up and find out that they are human? That skin is only there just like ours. It's not going to keep you from getting cancer. It's not going to keep you from getting sick. It's not going to do anything. That lie they told you all is not true. That you go back and look at ancient history and ancient Kemet, you'll see that there were no white people on this earth. And that you evolved from black people as you moved up away from the equator, as you travel up the Nile. You know, the Nile and the Amazon, they go the opposite way that rivers flow. And so you followed the river north. And as you got more to the north, you didn't need the sun. I mean, you didn't need all of this melanin. This melanin protected you. And it also has a brilliance level. This melanin protected you. The thick, nappy hair that you laugh at protected your head. So that the sun was beating down in Africa, which, of course, that was the emperor's name that had captured parts of the motherland, and that's how he got the Africanos. It became Africa, but you know it wasn't called Africa. You know all this. If you don't look it up, if you're gonna wake up and be woke on something that makes some sense, you know. But I digress. The teacher part comes out in me. I can't help it. Anyway, let's go. I'm still teaching school. I'm back in Atlanta. And I'm back teaching school. And then Alvin does come back. He leaves from up there and comes back. I don't know where he works. I think because he had those extra skills that he got up there. You know, he went to a bigger, better. And he started his own business. That's what it was. A computer business with Mr. Hill. He and Mr. Hill, he worked for, Mr. Hill was one of his clients. Yeah, people don't know that. And that's how did I meet them then? That's when I met them. That's when I was a Q at. When Alvin was in business. Then he went in business with someone else. I don't know what I did. I think I hung out with Zanona a lot, too, because I remember being with him at a meeting with Zanona and Mrs. King as we were trying to get the birthday to be a national holiday. There's so many little things that I did that I don't remember, you know. But I was just in the mix like that, just in the mix, just working and helping and trying to do things for Atlanta. I loved Atlanta. I had a newsletter. I may go too fast on this, called Inside Africa, Atlanta. I was good in divorce by then, so I won't go there. Let's start with the beginning of the divorce. That's what you're going to get next time, the beginning of the divorce. Listen, whatever it was that came over me, sometimes things try to make you stop. Or, you know, we're fighting principalities. Especially when you know you got to do something. When God gives you something to do, you know, everything just comes at you. Just says, oh, you think you're going to do that? Oh, you think you're going to do that? Let me send some evil to stop you and block you. And let me, you know, I just don't even prescribe to any of it. I just try to let you know, honestly, what's going on. Let me get to the next thing. Let me move forward. That's what I'm doing. You know, I'm gonna, next time, I'm gonna be able to play y'all something. I'm gonna play you something fancy, you know. Other than that, I'm working on it. I love you, and you can't do anything about it.